Abercrombie and Fitch CEO charged with sex traffic lights. The Diddy effect? We got to talk about that and a lot more. But before we get into it, hello, my name is Sebastian and I spill pop culture tea videos every single day. So if you are looking for a new messy best friend who is covering all things pop culture, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would be so incredibly grateful. Listen, I am so shocked with this, and this news that just hit about the former CEOs of Abercrombie and Fitch charged, like what Diddy's being charged and accused of, is so mind-boggling that I felt like I had to share this story with you guys. Because Abercrombie and Fitch and I have a long relationship of hate, and we're gonna get into that towards the end of the video, but I'm just very shocked about these allegations. So I definitely want to give you guys a disclaimer, a trigger warning that we will be talking about sex traffic lights, and I just want you guys to always know that I'm always standing with victims. I always stand with the truth. I always stand with sympathy, and I always spill, I guess, the tea, but I don't really consider this tea, but I always give you guys the news the most sensitive and human way possible, because I definitely do have a strong firm decision when I first started my channel that I would be more human than just robotic and just give you guys the news. So I'm definitely just very aware of that, if you will. All right, so I'm gonna read you guys. This is from abcnews.com. It says former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO charged with sex traffic lights over a dozen victims. Prosecutors. So it says former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries and two others were arrested Tuesday as part of a criminal investigation into the alleged sex traffic lights of more than a dozen victims, according to the FBI and federal prosecutors. Jeffries, his partner Matt Smith, and a third man, Jim Jacobson, are accused of operating an international sex traffic lights and prostitution business, and recruited young men for parties in the US and abroad, according to a 16-count indictment. The former retail executive and Smith relied on their vast financial resources, Jeffries' power as the CEO of Abercrombie, and numerous people, including Jacobson, and a network of employees, contractors, and security professionals to run a business that was dedicated to fulfilling their sexual desires and ensuring that their international sex traffic lights and prostitution business was kept secret, the indictment alleges. Federal prosecutors said the trio allegedly paid dozens of men to travel around the world to engage in sex acts over at least a 7-year period, starting in late 2008. The indictment mentions 15 alleged victims, identified as John Doe's 1 through 15. Jeffries allegedly recruited, hired, and paid a slate of household staff to facilitate and supervise the sex events. Prosecutors and the FBI believe there are many more victims and ask them to come forward. Jacobson allegedly traveled throughout the United States and internationally to recruit and interview men for the so-called sex events. According to prosecutors, during tryouts of potential candidates, Jacobson requires that the candidates first engage in sex acts with him, prosecutors said. The indictment alleges that many of the men were coerced, led to believe that attending the events would yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie or otherwise benefit their careers, or in the alternative, that not complying with requests for certain acts during the sex events could harm their careers. The defendants are charged with sex traffic lights and interstate prostitution. They are expected to make appearances in the jurisdictions where the men were arrested in Florida and Wisconsin before they are brought to Central Islip in Long Island, New York, at a later date for arrangement. Quote, we will respond in detail to the allegations after the indictment is unsealed and when appropriate, but plan to do so in the courthouse, not the media. Brian Bieber, an attorney for Jeffries, and Joe Nascimento, an attorney for Smith, told ABC News in identical statements. Abercrombie and Fitch and an attorney for Jacobson declined ABC's news request for comments. Jeffries, who was the chairman and CEO of the powerhouse teen fashion brand from 1992 to 2014, has been accused in civil lawsuits of exploiting young men for sex at parties he hosted at his Hamptons estate in New York, London, Venice, and elsewhere with his partner, Smith. One of the plaintiffs, David Bradbury, a former crewman of the reality series Below Deck, said Jeffries made Abercrombie successful by the over-sexualization of young men. His lawsuit accused Jeffries, Smith, Jacobson, and Abercrombie itself of luring attractive young men under the guise of making them an Abercrombie model and then forcing them to take substances and perform sex acts. The plaintiff's attorney, Brad Edwards of Edwards Henderson, told ABC News in a statement, quote, as we laid out in our lawsuit, this was an Abercrombie run. SEX traffic lights organization that permitted throughout the company and allowed the 3 individuals arrested today to victimize dozens and dozens of young aspiring male models. Quote, powerful individuals have far too long trafficked and aid for their own sex pleasure, young people with few resources and a dream of making successful careers in fashion or entertainment. Wow. So I already read some comments saying that this is like a distraction from the Diddy case. So the Diddy case can somehow lower the steam and not be the center of the topic, but that would never happen. I'm going to say this, that, for many years, powerful people have, done and gotten away with a lot of things. And I just feel like, this is the year for the powerful that have been engaging in these horrible acts to really just go down. And I am so here for it, because just because you got money, just because you got power, just because you got a name does not mean you can act a fool and be a disgusting, abusive mother effer, okay? I'm so here for these alleged victims to get their justice and to heal, because this is what I always say. I always say that, I really do believe that every victim out there of any type of situation has, they have they have had their life changed by this acts, right? And my biggest prayer for them is to get justice. My biggest prayer for them is to understand that, they are worthy of justice, that they are worthy of defending themselves and of, going to that person's face and saying, I did not cause this, you did, therefore you have to pay for it. You know what I mean? And that's one of my biggest wishes. And I know it's easier said than done to confront this, but this is my biggest prayer for so many, for all the victims out there of any situation, to understand your worth and to understand that you did not deserve this and this was done to you, and that you deserve to speak out. So that's just what I have to say about that. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Once again, I mean, I don't think this is a distraction. This, even though the CEOs are very powerful, but Diddy is Diddy, and Hollywood is also in the eye of the hurricane with Diddy going down. So we'll see what happens. I'm disgusted by these allegations. I'm waiting to see their statement, and I will keep you guys updated with everything. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a distraction? How do you feel about Abercrombie? Oh, I didn't tell you. So Abercrombie and Fitch has been like, for me, it was just like the worst experience ever. I remember going in there when I was like a kid in Miami, and I remember going to this mall, and you know, Abercrombie was there. There was like this other store, it was Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch, and I feel like everybody was wearing those two, those two brands. And Abercrombie was like the bougier one, and Hollister was kind of like, you know, the more like, it was still very bougie, but I think it was a bit more affordable. But I remember going to Abercrombie and Fitch, and I've always been big, like I've always, you know, had, you know, some extra meat on my bones. And I remember going to Abercrombie and Fitch, and I just remember like, you know, as soon as I walked in there, I think I must have been what, like, I don't remember, maybe like 12 or 13. And I had like really big man boobs. And so I would like do everything I could to cover them. So I would put like a sweater, and I would put like the, you know, the sleeves down here, you know, to cover the boobs. Or I would put like my book pack to on this side to cover the boobs. You know, I would do whatever it took to cover the damn boobs. I would wrap myself in plastic, and it was just a lot. I did get lipo later on, but when I was a kid, you know, I was in Miami when it was so hot and everyone was sweating, I was wearing sweaters, right? I feel like a lot of us could, you know, we could relate to that. But I remember going to Abercrombie and Fitch, and this girl, I was looking for some, I don't know what, maybe like a hoodie or something. I was looking for something. And I just remember like walking in there, and my mom, she was like outside, maybe on a phone call or something. I remember going in by myself, and I was just kind of like looking around, and I just remember going in there, and this guy comes out with this girl, and they just come straight at me, and they're like, are you here to buy a gift? And I was like, a gift? No. And I just remember getting very nervous. I've always been very nervous speaking to people. I was like, no, not a gift. I'm looking for like a hoodie. And they're like, sweetie, let me just stop you right there. We don't have that type. We don't have your sizes. That's it. And you know what? I remember very well responding. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you so much. Like I was so embarrassed. I didn't tell my mom. Actually, I don't think I've ever told this story before. But I just remember like feeling, part of me felt like, oh, that was nice. You know, they wanted me to know so I don't waste my time. And then the other part was like, of course I'm too fat to fit in these things, you know, right? And then I remember as days went on and days went by, I would see like everyone wear Abercrombie, and I would just, I feel like because I've been fat shamed my whole life, like this was just another random Tuesday. But now that I look back on it, like I feel really bad for like little Sebastian, because you know, these model-like Greek gods come to you and just say, don't waste your time. Like, you're not going to fit in any of these sizes. So I never went back into an Abercrombie and Fitch. I never did. I never wanted to. I always found it to be so not inclusive. And, you know, the mighty have fallen. So anyways, what do we think? Let me know in the comments below. I love you all so much. I'm so grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. And I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah.